Welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use TechWrap Crafts glitter printable heat transfer paper. I'm going to be cutting it off the Cricut and adding it to a shirt. As you can see, with this printable heat transfer paper, you can use an image with all colors and it just looks so neat on the shirt. Here are the two TechWrap Craft packages. This is my first time testing out glitter printable HTV. I've never seen a glitter version before, I don't think. So I'm really excited about this. This comes in blue and green glitter. What's cool is that it looks like just regular white glitter, but once it prints, you can see the colored glitter through the image. Next, I'll show you how I put this together in Cricut Design Space. First, I want to upload my PNG image. This came in a bundle, so there's tons of fun images, but I'm just going to be using one of these. I want to select flat graphics since I'm going to be using print then cut, and I'll hit continue. It pulls it in very large, so I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. Since it's May, I'm totally getting into the summer mode, even though it's very much spring here where I live. It's been raining, there's been thunderstorms, tornadoes, all kinds of things. With printable heat transfer vinyl, you don't want to have a lot of little tiny cuts. This image is pretty good because there's not too many. There's a little bit in the leaves here, but this one would work fine just as it is, and you can use the mask that TechWrap has to transfer over to your shirt. But I'm just going to make it a little bit easier on myself, and I'm going to add offset to it. I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller so it's easier to see the offset. I'll go up to offset and pick the one that I want. I think I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. That looks good. I'll hit apply. I obviously want the inside to be solid. I'll move this so you can see how there's a few spaces in there. I'm just going to hit undo. So I'm going to select offset in my layers panel and I want to contour it. You can see the contour button is grayed out. That's because it's set to a print then cut. So I'll switch it to a basic cut. Now you can see it appears. I'll hit contour and I am going to select hide all contours. It automatically keeps that top one, which is the one we want. So it's just easier to press that one button instead of pressing all three. You can hit the X and that totally fixes it. Now I do want to change the color. I'm gonna move this to the center and make it bigger so you can see it a lot easier. So for the color, I want it to be this dark pink, and a lot of times the colors do show up in here, but it's only showing gray because this is a printable vinyl. But I want the offset to match this dark pink, so I have an excellent hack. I've shared this before on my channel, but if you haven't seen it, I'll show it to you now. Here's the image that I'm using. I've downloaded it from Creative Fabrica. I will put a link for this bundle in my description box. What I like to do is go up to this little dropper. I've downloaded this onto my computer. I'm gonna select it. You can see like a little plus sign on the mouse. I'm going to hover over that dark pink area. I'll select it, and you can see in the top right, it automatically gives me that hex code. Now back in Creative Fabrica, I'm going to select the offset layer. I'll go over to my color. I'll select the plus sign for advanced colors. Here's where you can type in the hex code. I'm just going to select Command V. If you have Windows, I believe it's Control V. And then it'll automatically switch it to that color. Look how cool that is. It matches it perfectly. So that is a wonderful hack. I use it all the time. Now what I need to do with both of these layers, I'm going to select over them. I'll come down and hit flatten. I also need to size this. With print then cut, you're definitely limited with size. Even though Cricut increased it, you still only are able to print it on an 8.5 by 11 sheet if that's what printer size you have. If you have a bigger printer, you can print it bigger, which is awesome. So what I'm gonna do is this exclamation mark is telling me that the image is too large for an 8.5 by 11 inch paper. So I'm going to auto resize. That makes it about 7.4 inches for the width. I am putting this on a size small t-shirt, and I usually like to do 8 or 8.5 inches for that, so it's a little bit smaller, but it'll be fine. But now that it's sized and flattened, I can go to make it. I'll hit continue. I'm going to select send to printer. I'm going to keep my bleed on. That should give it a more accurate cut, and I'm also going to select use system dialog, and I'll hit print. The use system dialog will come up with this screen, the print settings. I'll click on media and quality, and I am going to select best, then I'll hit print. You'll want to put the paper in your printer the correct way. What's really nice is there's wording on the back so you know which side is the back. The front obviously is like white glitter. You'll want to use this with just regular inkjet printers, which is really nice because you can just use the home printer that you already have. For my cut setting, I'm going to use Printable Vinyl White Gray Liner Printing. Here's what it looks like after it's printed out. I would say the glitter is more like a shimmer, and I don't know if it's picking up that well on camera. You can see it just a little bit better in person. The blue part of the glitter is showing up better in the darker ink, like the sunglasses and the little background of summer vibes. So if you really want to see that color come through, I would recommend doing a darker ink color like black. I place it in the upper left corner of my Cricut mat and use my brayer tool to press it into the mat so it stays put. I always do this. It just really helps prevent the paper from shifting when it's getting cut. I struggled a little bit with some of my test cuts for these, so I ended up using my 60-degree blade instead of my 45-degree blade. I think I have those numbers right. I actually use an off-brand blade instead of Cricut, which I love. I can link it down in the description box, but I feel like it just kind of depends on what machine you're using and what blade you're using, so I would definitely recommend test cuts before cutting out your design. I load it into the Cricut machine. First it'll read the registration lines, then it'll cut it out. I was a little nervous with the registration lines because when there's any glitter or something that's over those black lines, it can mess up and not be able to read it, even if you have the maker, but thankfully it worked. Once the Cricut's done cutting, you can go out and weed out that excess material. I was a little nervous at first because it wasn't weeding great. I just had to push my finger up against it and it did cut it fine. I just had to work at it a little bit, but the rest of it was pretty easy to weed out, so it ended up being fine. Because I had the bleed on, you can see some ink past the cut line, and that's because the bleed just makes a more accurate cut. It eliminates any white borders. Like I mentioned earlier, TechRep has a heat transfer mask, so you can place this over your design to bring the whole design to your shirt, which is great. I really don't need to use it for this design because it's all one solid piece because of the offset, but I still want to show you an example of it. I remove the backing and just place it over the design. Then I take my squeegee tool and run it over it. I use the felt side of the squeegee. That just helps eliminate any bubbles, but before that I had 0 bubbles, so I don't think that's much of an issue. I'm using my Cricut Easy Press 2 for this. I set it to 330 degrees at 25 seconds. I'm using a Bella Canvas shirt that I bought from Michaels. I love Bella Canvas. They are just so soft. And first what I do is I fold my shirt in half, and while my heat press is heating up, I will run it over the shirt. And this will do 2 things. It will preheat the shirt, which is what you want to do, but it will also make a line directly down the center of the shirt so I know where to place my design. That is one of my favorite hacks that I use all the time. I place my acrylic t-shirt guide on the shirt and I line up the arrow with that line that I just created. I'll put a link for these down in my description box. They're super cheap on Amazon. I removed the backing of the paper and I did go in and scrape down the back with my squeegee a little bit better. That way that paper just transferred a lot easier to the mask. I fold my sheet in half, not on the sticky side, and this also finds the center, and once I get that little crease, I place that directly on the arrow and I just make sure it's all lined up. Then I place a Teflon sheet on top and put my Easy Press over that and run it down for the full 25 seconds. Then I go ahead and peel off that mask. You can do that while it's still warm. Now let's do a quick wash test. TechRep Craft recommends letting your design cure for at least 24 to 48 hours. I waited just a little bit over those 24 hours. I feel like it was like 27 hours. It was the next day. So you'll also want to flip the shirt inside out before you wash it. They say it's better to wash it with your hands in cold water using a mild detergent. If you are using a machine, they recommend setting the washer to delicates. I have a delicate setting and I totally forgot to set it to that, but that's okay. This is just recommendations for it to last as long as possible. They also say it's not advised to put it in the dryer, but I'm going to test it out. They say just let it air dry, which I totally could do, but I wanted to see how it would work in the dryer on my low setting. Let's take it out of the dryer and see how it held up. I'll put a link for this material in my description box, and on that link it'll show all the washing instructions, which is really helpful. Here's how it looks. It's nice and smooth. There's no cracking, but what's super cool is you can see the glitter a lot better, I feel like. I don't know if the heat just activated it a little bit more, but you can really see the glitter. I don't know if you can see on camera, but you can really see that blue coming through as well. I thought I would do a quick stretch test as well. I just lightly stretched the shirt and I didn't see any cracking or creasing at all. It also feels lightweight on the shirt. I am just super, super happy with this product. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had so much fun making it. I would love it if you subscribed if you are new to my channel, and give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Also, let me know if you have any questions in the comments box below.